What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mark Show. We're back here for episode 3 discussion of the ESPN Last Dance documentary for the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. Of course, I have with me, as last week, Jason Verpel and our new guest, Chris Sales. We all work together at our job, so definitely we're all big Jordan fans, Chicago Bulls fans as well. So let's go ahead and get into the discussion. So, Jason, like last week, what is one word to describe this episode?
Hey, Daniel, I want to say thank you very much for inviting me to your show. Second, what I would like to say is vacation is the word that I would use for the first episode.
Okay, I can see that.
And the reason why I would say that is Dennis Rodman's 48-hour vacation that he took to Vegas during the middle of the season, just so he can kind of like recharge his batteries, and the whole time he's like partying like a rock star.
Yes, he was. Him and what's homegirl name? Carmen Electra.
Carmen Electra, yes.
And whoever else he was partying with.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of random people he was partying with.
They could have taken a half an hour just to detail that trip.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially, you knew he was ready to go. That fool got his Miller Lite, got on that bike, done. I'm out, son. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course he didn't make it back on time. I do remember that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Chris? One word to describe this episode.
Man, worm. It's all about the worm, baby. As far as all the players I liked on that Bulls team, I always loved Dennis Rodman. And this episode just made me love him even more. Man could go on 96-hour binge in Vegas with Carmen Electra, still come back and out and work you on the court. I mean, how can you not love that? Beautiful.
Yeah, that fool, he in practice the next day outran them.
Mm-hmm.
They had to catch up to him. That's
crazy.
I didn't know about that. So for me, one word to describe this episode would be monster. And the reason I say monster is because Dennis Rodman was a monster on the court. We all know that. Rebounds, he was a killer on the court. Hell, he was a monster. He was that guy against the Bulls when he was with the Pistons and such, as well as he was a monster to himself. With him being in the car, who knows what could have happened with that gun in his hand. So he even said himself, it was like, I guess, a wake-up call. He needed it, like with everything going on mentally. Hell, he probably was one of the first guys to not really admit he had mental issues without really admitting it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Rodman was one of those cats that got burned out real quick. I don't know if it was just family upbringing or he just really didn't have the right people around him. But it always felt like he had something going on that he just didn't really let anybody know. So he would lash out at weird times. Everything going cool for 15 games straight, and next thing you know, he's kicking a photographer on the sideline just because he felt like it.
That photographer looked a lot like you, just to let you know. Yeah, that was in Minnesota. That was in '96, I think that happened with the kicking. Yeah, and that was in Minnesota. But I thought it was interesting in terms of the monster, in terms of his, his always trying to find a way to thrill seek and whatnot. Living in the Chi in '96 through that era, in '97, '98, he used to frequent this bar called the Crowbar. So it'd be like crazy partying. And so like, man, he was just like, he became like the town's like ultimate party dude. Like he was always out there. Own club a couple years later. That lasted for about, I think, 3 or 4 years before they shut that down. But yeah, this dude stay out all night, partying and whatnot. And it's kind of crazy because back then, as me growing up and in terms of being like a teenager in like my early 20s, you really didn't see like Mike or any upper echelon NBA players in clubs. if they were anywhere, they were in their own private spots with like only maybe a couple hundred people in the place and so forth. NBA players didn't really make themselves accessible to the normal crowds like they do today, or like the NFL players do today. So that was kind of crazy because Dennis was like just like a Pied Piper when it comes to his party and wherever he went, the party went.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I didn't know is when they showed him in college, he averaged 26 points. I didn't know he had a game like that. I knew he was an amazing rebounder, but in college he was killing it.
Yeah, he went to a very small school too, so that kind of helped. So he wasn't like it's Division I, but he's not necessarily playing like the elite level schools during that time period. But yeah, the dude could score. He always could score, and that was like the biggest, I guess, deception that he had is that he couldn't score. It's just that he didn't want to. He'd rather focus on other things. But the dude was scoring when he was in Detroit, and he scored whenever the game got tight or something was happening, whatever, and they needed an extra person to kind of step up. A lot of time his defender would slag out for him and try to double team Mike or Scotty or one of the shooters and so forth, which would kind of leave him open. And he was actually able to deliver in those moments, understanding that that's what they were going to do. They were going to leave him and get open, so he would find ways to score.
Yeah. And one thing that was pretty interesting was his study habit, because you could tell he was very smart in the court, and he played against some of the best out there. So he kind of learned their shooting styles, which I never thought about that. Like as a defender, as a primary defensive guy, you want to learn how someone shoots because you're going to know how the ball rotates, and how the ball rotates, how it hits the rim, and once it hits the rim, where the ball goes. Like he was like in deep mind frame of that. That's something that I didn't know about either.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy is how he learned about rebounding, how he would go about the rebounding in games, and how he can predict where the ball would go to if he shot it from this direction, that direction, where he needed to be, how he would react. I mean, that's such a nuanced thing to pay attention to and to practice over and over and over again. That's what made it so crazy how he would get 20 rebounds a game. Don't score no points, but he would get 20 rebounds a game, and you're like, how's the dude getting more rebounds to the center? I was like, it just didn't make no sense, but it was like that's how dedicated he was to what he was doing. So you thought it was crazy. That man wasn't that crazy.
Yeah, that dude was strong, man. He was real strong. Like I would sit there and I would challenge anybody to, like, whenever you talk about Shaq in his prime, like nobody could stop dude. Shaq was just unbelievable, especially like during those finals, he was averaging like 35 and 14 or whatever. But I will reference this is that when the Bulls were intact and it was a younger Shaq during pretty much like 96 through 98, Dennis used to hold Shaq. Like Dennis used to, like, they put Dennis on him in the fourth quarter and he would frustrate the hell out of Shaq, almost to the point where Shaq would get a couple fouls and the next thing you know, that dude is just all out of his mind. You know what I mean? So he was one of the few people that necessarily you're never going to stop another great NBA player. But he probably was the best defender I've ever seen, like, go one-on-one against Shaq outside of maybe Hakeem.
Yeah. I like how he was talking about he would just have one of his teammates go in the gym and just shoot. Hey, you shoot, I go get it, kind of deal. He'll just shoot. He said, hey, just shoot for anywhere in the court, and I'm going to go get the ball. That's pretty, especially when it comes to practice, you understand the whole offense and defense side, but just that side, like Chris said, just the whole mechanics of where the ball goes is incredible. Like, that's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris, what is your earliest memory, your actual memory of Dennis?
When he played for the Spurs.
Okay.
Because obviously the Spurs and the Rockets played against each other quite a bit. Had David Robinson at the time going against the Rockets, So that was when I initially got to see him, when all Demolition Man and had his hair like all blonde and everything. But he was still like, he was a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
I hated him because he would get all the rebounds. He would do some sneaky stuff, and he would say, "This boy playing dirty as hell out here." But he made that team go. Those early '90s Spurs teams were good because he was on it.
Mm-hmm.
He was still aloof, but they was a real threat.
Hey, and one thing that, and they brought it up, is that I guess Madonna was the one to get him to open up to who he was, who he should be, because he was, like I said, it showed in the Pistons, he was that kind of quiet, just do your job kind of guy. But once he got with Madonna, she's like, dude, you need to be yourself. And from that point on, all of a sudden, like you said, he dyed his hair. He was just piercings, tattoos. He's a different man.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, what happened was that even though he did that on San Antonio, it wasn't welcomed. So that's why they had released him and whatnot. And so through free agencies, when the Bulls picked him up in '96, so it wasn't until he comes to Chicago and is doing a lot of this crazy shit, and then all of a sudden people start loving him because they can see, because like in the Shy, as long as you working, like you can lose 100 games in a row. As long as you working, we with you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he was working. So nobody really cared about anything else. As long as you could party, do anything you want to. But if you're giving it your all during those 48 minutes, that's what we about.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the a little montage they gave Dennis Rodman with Beastie Boys playing in the background. The music for so far for the first 3 episodes has been pretty legit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good.
Yeah, they start off with that Cool J, and then they went over to Rakim. Just to name a few.
Hits, man. They just playing hits.
So, and then of course they put when they showed Jordan, they gave him Prince.
Yeah, man.
I was like, oh yeah. I was like, okay. Like, I need a soundtrack now. I need a soundtrack.
Yeah, so like it was just nuts, man. Because I mean, just that team coming together, the difference, I think, and if someone is watching this now, watching us talk about this now, and if you're comparing eras, you don't really want to do that too much. But if you would just want to compare the experience, back then when you got a couple of core players, star players on your team, and you build around them, sometimes it takes, 7 to 10 to 11 years to become a prominent team, because free agency wasn't as prominent back then as it is now, where meaning players switching teams left and right. It's normally the guys that were like literally mid-level exception, the guys who weren't necessarily major role players on any team was the ones that were going from one team to another. So back then, like what gives you the appreciation of what they're trying to show you, especially with Dennis, and eventually what they're going to get into with Phil, and then all the backstory with Jerry Krause is that from the time that Mike got drafted to the time that they eventually win in '91, it's a 7-year, like process to get to this point. And we kept knocking on that door. Chicago kept knocking on that door from like 8 to 91, and the one team that we're getting annihilated from is the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah,
and like I'm trying to tell you, dude, like at this particular time, right? So we talking about 80, 88, man. I'm like 10 years old, dude, and like I'm 10, 11, 12 years old, going to bed crying, dude. I'm crying, like real tears. Detroit some motherfuckers. Fuck you, Detroit.
Bad boys, boy.
Bad boys for real, dude. I know. And everybody who kind of like experienced that, we all know that it's like that. It was a certain feeling, like they knew we was coming, but they was on top of the hill and they was holding us down, and it was just like this perfect thing. And I don't think, to be honest with you, if you talk about 6 championships in 8 years, I don't even think that happens unless you go through what you got to go through with Detroit.
You had to go through. You had to go through the learning curve. That's what the late '80s, '90s NBA. To win a championship, you had to go through something. Yeah, you had the Lakers and the Celtics in the '80s battling back and forth, but having the Pistons got eliminated by the Celtics like 3 years in a row. Finally, they beat them, go to the finals, lose that one, so come back again, beat the Celtics. This time they win. Then you got Chicago Bulls coming up. They coming up next. They done lost to the Pistons already. Come back again next year. Lose again to them. Come back another year. You lose again. Now, so it's always a process. It's always a battle that you have to overcome that demon just to get to that next level where you want to be.
Right. And if you remember NBA history, there's lots of teams that never slay that dragon.
Yeah.
You can look at the Knicks of the 90s. You can look at the Seattle Supersonics in the 90s. You can look at the Utah Jazz.
Pacers. The Pacers. The Cavaliers fell off the map.
Yeah.
Phoenix Suns. Shit. Yeah, all of them. So, but them bad boys.
Cutthroat.
Right. And I guess, people saw it tonight, like those rules, like they was back in the day, Shaq rules. You had them Jordan rules. They already knew, hey, this man can go baseline. This man, if he goes top of the key, you got to do this. He goes to the wing, you got to do this. If he jumps, hey, Bill Lambier, you know what to do. John Sally, you know what to do. Just knock him down.
Right. Yeah, so it was kind of crazy because back then, too, there weren't too many people who could hit a jump shot on the Bulls, man. In the late 80 teams, like, you had John Paxson who could hit a jump shot, but only when he's by himself. He couldn't hit a jump shot on nobody. Like, there was no step backs, no, one hard dribble to the right, no rock to cradles, nothing like that. So basically, he had stand-alone open jump shot. Another on the team was Craig Hodges, who can hit, who once won, I think he hit like 3 different three-point contests. But outside of that, and still Craig Hodges wasn't creating his own shot either. So literally everything was predicated off of Mike and Scotty's penetration. They had another dude named Brad Sellers that was on the team too. He was certified garbage. But yeah, nobody can hit like shots. So it's like it's easy. You just fall back in the paint and this dude come your way. He's driving. He's still dropping 45 points on you. But you whoop his ass. He gonna earn every point.
Yeah.
Can't do that in NBA down. Fall out in 5 seconds.
5 seconds. Out of there.
Yeah. I already know. When I was watching the episode, I was thinking in my head, I guarantee a lot of NBA players today couldn't handle NBA basketball back then. They'll be whining and complaining way too much. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I mean, you would say most of them, but I like to give the benefit of the doubt and say most of the upper echelon players, I think that they would find a way. They would adjust. You adjust to anything. Harden would adjust. Dame Lillard will adjust. I think that, to be honest with you, if you're talking about the top 10 players in the league today, most of them would adjust. I mean, for example, I'll give you an example. Look at Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki, when he first came in the league, dude, he was balling, but he was soft. All you had to do is put your hands on him. Tracy McGrady, put your hands on him. You know what I mean, and whatnot, and you would take him. Rasheed Wallace would take you out of the game, but after a while, he got, he acclimated to it and got used to all the physical contact and adjusted. So I'm figuring that majority of the guys that I'm talking about, like today, top 10 players, I figured that they wouldn't necessarily be as great as maybe they are now, but they would fight.
Yeah. You have to adapt. The only way you can attain that greatness is you got to figure out a way. Just like how the league adapted once Steph started hitting 30-foot threes on them. The league changed. You adapt.
Yeah.
Had to have a center, go into the paint, maybe pull up from mid-range. Once you start learning, man, I can just come and shoot from 30 feet away. If I hit it, great, 3 points. Then the game changed. It took a lot of physicality away because you didn't want to be too aggressive on the guy shooting from the 3-point line. So, it's always just different eras. I think right now we have this era where dudes are taking longer and longer shots. They'll probably evolve and revert back around. Once you get the dominant center going again that can do everything, guess what everybody else is going to do? Try to get a dominant center. Dominate. So,
but it's crazy how you don't have more dominant centers, though.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, all right, so for example, right, you had, like, in the 80s transition into all the way probably the late 80s transition all the way to about, let's say 2003. You know how many dominant centers was in the league that, like, historically Hall of Fame centers in the league? Where are those dudes now? I understand they're being phased out, but, I mean, there's nobody with a low post game like that?
Nah, I mean, you look at who would you consider the top centers in the league right now, and you just like they're good for rebound, maybe they can dunk, but can you count on them to do much of anything else? I mean, you got DeAndre Jordan. He can dunk. He can give you a couple block shots, highlight reels here and there. Kind of a liability on defense otherwise. Hassan Whiteside, okay defender. Don't really have a jump shot or post move. Dwight Howard never really developed a post move. He could dunk, but defensive player year. But once he lost his athleticism, that went away. I mean, I'm trying to think. Capella, watching him on the Rockets for all these years, he never developed a shot. He can catch an alley oop, block a couple shots. He can do that all day long. But that's it. That's all he can do. You pull him out, but I mean, Nick Jokic is the only one I can say is kind of a dominant center because he has post moves. He can play decent in the paint defensively. Other than that, everyone just kind of limited. It's very limited. There's no Hakeem, no David Robinson, no Shaqs.
But then, like, for example, there's nobody beasting. I mean, Nick Jokic, you're right, 100%. Like, he fits the center mold. He can actually even pass, like Sabonis, like Arvydas Sabonis, the father. Sorry, and then he can shoot threes as well, right? But he gets in the post and he bangs. There's nobody that bangs anymore. And I understand, like, you want people to shoot more threes and want to space the floor or whatever. But man, what happened to like the dudes? Because I mean, they're lifting weights now, right? Like, part of LeBron's success is that literally he's like, and I mentioned this last week to you, Daniel, like, he's like the Bo Jackson of the NBA, right? This dude is stronger, faster than most, and can jump. Now, his jumping abilities has regressed as he's playing like year 17, but he's still as fast and as strong. And basically, he get ahead of steam. You ain't stopping him, all right? So where are the centers that are there that are going to enforce that? Now, I mean, you're not coming down this lane.
They're not there because they focus on the 3-point line.
Yeah, there's none.
Get on the post, on the wing. So open up the lanes.
Because there was a couple of knucklehead teams. I mean, even in the 2000s, they had. I mean, the Jailblazers, there was some knuckleheads. They knocked your ass out. You see what I'm saying? So they had a lot of dudes, even on the perimeter. They was, they put your hand, and make sure that you feel them. And you need someone like Shaq to defeat them, when they did. If not, I think that they would have been a championship. They would have won a championship.
That's true.
But you don't have those guys today. There's no. Where are those dudes, man? They turn into boxers. Where they go? Playing football?
They was only 3-point shot. That's what they do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Big men now, they want to shoot threes, but spread the floor kind of deal. Isolation. Chris, as Rockets fans, we know about isolation.
Too much about isolation.
Yes.
So that's not too much that I could. Hell, anything else? Episode 3 that was pretty, besides the Pistons, and that's really much it about that.
It was a long episode to me.
Say again? Chris, say again?
I said that was the Rodman episode to me.
Yeah, it was a Rodman episode for sure.
Yeah. So a good deal, people. Well, guys, so pretty much it's going to be toward the end of this video. So before I get to the end, last week, Mr. Verpel, please give us your social media handle, sir, where you want people to follow you on social media.
All right, that's going to be Jason Verpel at Instagram.
Short and sweet. What about you, Chris? You want to hit you up on the socials?
Nah. I keep it private.
Hey.
That's just the way I am.
What's that face, Jason?
Huh?
Trying to act like your screen froze.
Right? Yeah, that face right there. Yeah, screenshot that. And of course, guys, you can find me at The Mark Show here on YouTube, of course, and Instagram. So if you guys like this video, give us a thumbs up. As you see the screen right now, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video to other people. And where's my baby Zoe? We'll see you on Wednesday for episode 4. So, peace.